I stood there, staring at the screen with my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, realizing that the person I had spent 3 years systematically trying to ruin, the player I had sworn to humiliate until they quit the game forever, was currently sitting in the chair right next to me at this tournament, holding my hand and whispering that they never wanted to let go. Imagine finding out that your soulmate is actually your arch nemesis, the one person you've spent thousands of hours trash-talking, sabotaging, and obsessively tracking across a digital map just to make their life miserable. Was I a monster for falling for the person I hated most? Or is there really such a thin line between pure vitriol and absolute devotion? I need you to tell me honestly, would you have walked away the moment the masks dropped? Or would you have leaned in for that first, terrifyingly real kiss? My life used to be defined by two things: my soul-crushing corporate job during the day and Aetheria Online at night. Aetheria wasn't just a game to me. It was a high-stakes fantasy world where I was Viper, a top-tier rogue known for being ruthless. But every hero, or villain in my case, needs a foil, and mine was Kaelen. Kaelen was a paladin, the literal embodiment of everything I found annoying, self-righteous, always helping low-level players, and incredibly frustratingly good at the game. Our rivalry started over something stupid, a rare boss drop back in year 1, but it spiraled into a legendary feud. We didn't just fight, we psychological warfared each other. I would camp his quest locations for hours just to gank him, and he would somehow always find a way to counter-trap me, leaving my character's corpse in the middle of a town square as a public embarrassment. I remember one specific night where I stayed up until 4 a.m. just to follow his character through the Whispering Woods, waiting for the exact second his health dropped during a mob fight to strike. I wanted him to feel the frustration I felt every time he outshone me in the leaderboards. We knew each other's playstyles better than we knew our own reflections. I knew that when Kaelen was stressed, he'd mistime his heals. He knew that if he baited me with a specific emote, I'd get reckless and dive in too deep. We traded insults in global chat that became local memes. People used to gather just to watch us duel, taking sides and betting virtual currency on who would tilt first. My hatred for him was the most consistent thing in my life. It was a fire that kept me warm when my real-world existence felt cold and stagnant. Every time I saw that golden paladin armor, my blood would boil, and I'd double down on my efforts to ruin his reputation. I'd spread rumors that he used macros, I'd lure high-level bosses into the towns where he was helping newbies, and I'd laugh as the chaos unfolded. But then, the developers introduced the Soul Link mechanic for a massive global event. It was supposed to pair you with a random player to complete a series of impossible trials. Of course, the universe has a sick sense of humor because I was paired with Kaelen. At first, it was toxic. We spent the first hour just typing caps lock insults at each other while monsters slaughtered us. We were so busy arguing over who was the worst player that we didn't notice the timer running out on the first stage. But the rewards were too good to pass up. Exclusive gear that would put either of us at the top of the server permanently, so we made a temporary truce. We hopped on a private voice call to coordinate, because typing was too slow for the precision needed. I expected a deep, basement dweller growl or a smug, arrogant prick. Instead, I heard this soft melodic voice with a slight rasp, a voice that sounded like warm honey and gravel. It caught me so off guard that I actually missed my first attack in the trial. We didn't exchange names, just rogue and paladin. As the weeks went by, the trials got harder, and our calls got longer. We stopped talking about the game, and started talking about our lives. I told this stranger about my lonely apartment, the stacks of frozen dinners, and the way the city lights looked at 3 a.m. when I couldn't sleep because of my anxiety. They told me about their passion for old books, their dream of opening a small library, and the fear that they were wasting their life behind a desk in a cubicle that felt like a cage. I found myself logging on not to kill Kaelen, but to talk to the person behind the avatar. The game became a backdrop for our growing intimacy. We would spend hours sitting our characters on top of a cliff overlooking the digital ocean, just talking through the headsets. I began to realize that the kindness I hated in the game, the way Kaelen would stop to help anyone, wasn't an act. It was who this person truly was. They were patient with my sarcasm and gentle with my outbursts. We became a duo that the entire server whispered about. Viper and Kaelen are raiding together? they'd ask. Is the world ending? It felt like a secret affair, a forbidden romance played out in lines of code and low-frequency audio. By day, we were the fiercest enemies in the public forums, keeping up the act to satisfy the fans and our own egos. But by night, we were two lonely souls finding a home in a headset. We shared things I'd never told my real-life friends, like the time I almost quit everything and moved to a different country just to escape the pressure of being perfect. I started falling hard. I fell for the wit, the kindness, and the way they always knew exactly what to say when I had a bad day at work. I'd be sitting at my desk in the office, looking at the clock, counting down the minutes until I could hear that voice again. It was a strange duality. I was still sending, "I hate you" messages in the public chat during the day while texting, "I can't wait to talk to you" in our private Discord at night. We finally agreed to meet at the Grand Finals tournament in the city. We decided not to share photos beforehand, wanting the big reveal, to be at the arena, believing that our connection was strong enough to transcend physical appearance. I spent 3 hours getting ready, terrified that the person I loved wouldn't like the person I actually was, the tired, overworked girl behind the elite rogue. When I arrived at the player lounge, I saw someone sitting alone, wearing a jersey with the name Kaelen stitched on the back. I walked up, my palms sweating and my breath hitching in my throat, tapped their shoulder, and when they turned around, time literally stopped. It was the person I had been seeing in the coffee shop near my office for months. The one I'd been too shy to ever speak to. The one I had secretly nicknamed the poet because they were always reading something classic. But as we sat there, the weight of our history hit me like a physical blow. All the years of hate, the digital blood spilled, the vitriol we threw at each other in front of thousands of people, the targeted harassment I had led against them. I felt a wave of nausea. How could I have been so cruel to the person who was now looking at me with such warmth? So that's the situation I was in. And I had to make a choice between the hate that defined my digital life and the love that was staring me in the face. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have let the past ruin the most real connection you've ever felt? Or would you have laughed at the irony of it all? Could you forgive someone who had spent years trying to break you online? The silence between us at that table felt like it lasted a decade. I saw the recognition flash in their eyes. The realization that I was Viper, the person who had made their gaming life a living hell for 3 years. I saw them look at my lanyard, then back at my face, and for a second, their expression went completely blank. I expected them to get up and walk out. I expected them to throw their water in my face or scream at me for the thousands of hours of stress I'd caused. Instead, they started to laugh. It wasn't a mean laugh. It was a tired, beautiful, relieved sound that filled the room and made me start to cry. They reached across the table, took my shaking hand in theirs, and said, "I should have known it was you. Nobody else could ever get under my skin like that. Nobody else could make me feel that much, even if it was anger." We spent the rest of the tournament ignoring the matches completely. We sat in the back of the arena, hidden in the shadows, talking about how many times we'd almost met in the real world without knowing it. We realized we lived only 4 blocks apart. We realized we had both been at the same park on the same day last summer. The irony was overwhelming. Every time I had been camping his character in the game, he was probably sitting just a few streets away, feeling the sting of my attacks while I sat in my room feeling the thrill of the hunt. We talked about the specific moments that hurt the most, and for the first time, I apologized. I apologized for the toxicity, the ego, and the pettiness. And he apologized too, for being so stubbornly good just to spite me. The climax came during the awards ceremony on the final night. We were both called up as the greatest rivals in Aetheria history, because of our legendary duels. The crowd was roaring, thousands of people in the stands and millions watching the live stream, waiting for us to trade one last scripted insult. The host handed me the mic, grinning, and asked, "Viper, what do you have to say to your greatest enemy now that you're face to face?" I looked at the person standing next to me, the person who knew my soul better than anyone, the person who had seen my darkest parts and stayed anyway, and I didn't give the crowd what they wanted. I didn't give them a show. I looked right into the camera and said, "I'm retiring from the hunt, because I finally caught what I was looking for. I spent 3 years trying to beat Kaelen, but I ended up needing him instead." I leaned in and kissed them right there on the main stage, under the flashing neon lights. The chat went absolutely nuclear. The screen behind us exploded with GG and WTF and heart emojis so fast the system almost crashed. It was the most chaotic, beautiful moment of my life. A public execution of our rivalry and the birth of something entirely new. The aftermath was a whirlwind. We had sponsors dropping us because we weren't marketable rivals anymore, and we had others offering us massive deals to play as a couple. But we didn't care about the money. Since then we've moved in together. Our 2 gaming setups are side by side now, and we still play Aetheria every night, but now we play on the same team. And honestly, we're unstoppable. The hate that used to fuel me has been replaced by a partnership that makes me a better person, both in the game and out of it. When I look at him now, I don't see a paladin I need to kill. I see a man who taught me that the opposite of hate isn't just love, it's understanding. We still bicker over boss drops, but now it ends with a laugh instead of a block. I learned that sometimes the person who challenges you the most is actually the person who completes you. We spent so much time building walls against each other that we didn't realize we were building a bridge at the same time. We both eventually quit our corporate jobs and started a small streaming channel together where we tell our story and help other players find community. If there's one thing I've taken away from this entire mess, it's that you should never judge a soul by the character they play or the mask they wear when they're hurting. We were both just lonely people using a game to vent our frustrations on the world. And we were lucky enough to find each other in the crossfire. Sometimes your biggest rival is just a mirror reflecting back the parts of yourself you're too afraid to love. And once you stop fighting that reflection, you can finally start living. Like this video if you were on my side and think love wins over a digital feud any day. Subscribe for more stories like this where the ending is anything but predictable. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Have you ever found love in a place where you only expected conflict? Have you ever had a rival who turned out to be your best friend? I'll see you all in the next story.